Hey everybody, it's Gordon Majak here, back with another episode of Timeless Pop, Rock, and Soul. And today we are going to be loving on one of my all-time favorite songs by one of my all-time favorite artists. And that would be this guy right up here. The artist eternally known as Prince. Prince Rogers Nelson, the one and only, my musical soul brother, Prince. Now, you may recall, if you've been a longtime viewer of the channel, I had told you guys way back there in the very beginning, I think it might have been even the first video, that Tommy Edwards video for It's All in the Game. I think I told you guys back then that Prince Rogers Nelson and I were born about 32 days apart. Pretty revealing, wouldn't you say? But my relationship with my dear soul brother, my musical brother, God, I love Prince. My relationship with Prince is a complicated one. Now, first of all, in the purely musical sense, my introduction to Prince goes back to 1980 when I was a young aspiring nightclub DJ here in the Seattle area. And Prince had a record out there, his second album that had come out there in late 1979. And there was some great stuff on that album, including a song called I Wanna Be Your Lover. And that was one of my favorites. What a great grooving little dance tune there. Of course, there was other great songs on that album as well. But man, I really loved playing I Wanna Be Your Lover. So that continued on, and I kept track of Prince, of course, and he kept coming out with records through the 80s, both while I was a DJ and then once I made the transition over to AEI, to the studios. Certainly Purple Rain. I remember seeing Purple Rain the night it came out, the day that movie came out, in the theaters. I remember seeing that premiere in the theaters and just walking out of there and thinking to myself, okay, well, this is about to become just a freaking phenomenon in its own right. And we all know what happened with Purple Rain. Didn't take a genius or me to see that one coming down the pipe. And so certainly around that time, of course, I was a huge Prince fan. Had not gotten to see him in concert back there in the really old days. That didn't come until later. But I was a huge Prince fan. Certainly. Then Pop Life, man, that song Pop Life, one of my favorite. Another all-timer, just like the song that we're doing today. Pop Life. God, what a great song. So I kept track of Prince there, but as I said, our relationship is complicated in the sense that on one hand, the things about Prince, whether it's personally or professionally or certainly musically, the songs, the aspects I connect with so deeply and so thoroughly and so beautifully. And I absolutely cherish that connection with Prince because it is such a beautiful connection and it's so unique, obviously, because he's so unique. And it is magic. But then again, there is the stuff that I don't connect with, I just don't have any time for at all. Now, I don't recall off the top of my head what the percentage of his material that I like or don't like, because Prince is certainly, one of the most prolific artists ever, right? Especially in pop music. He put out so much music, it was almost impossible to keep up with him at times. So I always followed Prince and I kept up with what he was doing, but I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I'm the type of fan that thinks that every single thing that Prince ever did or everything he ever recorded or everything he ever put out was some kind of, perfect record. Many of his records certainly were perfect in their own right, in their own ways. But I look at his catalog, and again, it's the stuff I love. Oh my God, it's the best of the best. And the stuff that I don't love, I don't have any time for, and I sort of let it go at that. So there I was in 1991, and that is when, the summer of 1991, that is when Prince released this album. Prince and the New Power Generation, and the album is called Diamonds and Pearls. And for a more And this is the song, might be kind of hard to read there. This is the cover for the single, Prince and the New Power Generation, a song called Money Don't Matter Tonight. Wow. And a couple things happened there in 1991 when Prince put this record out. I think there were a couple factors in this. First of all, the band that he has on this album. Let me, before we go any further, since I don't know how many chances I'm going to get to do this in my life. So let me shout out this band, this particular collection of this particular version, I should say, of the New Power Generation. There's a handful of musicians here. And this collection of musicians, this version of the NPG in particular, turned my head in such a big way when I heard this album. It suddenly made sense and it all clicked to me. Now, I liked the Revolution. Of course, Prince had the Revolution as his band for so many years. The Revolution's great. There's so many classic songs that Prince did with the Revolution, on and on. But what a wake-up call when I heard this particular group. So let me shout out these musicians, because all of these musicians not only helped Prince, for several years there with the New Power Generation, not only helped him do so many great albums there through the 90s, but this was a real turning point musically for me with Prince. And so here's the musicians I want to acknowledge. The great Rosie Gaines on keyboards and vocals. Remember that great duet she did with Prince when they did that version of Nothing Compares to You? Oh my God, I never forget hearing that for the first time. Tommy Barbarella on keyboards, Sonny T on bass, that's Sonny Thompson, the great Levi Seacer Jr. on guitar, and the incredible Michael Bland on drums. God, these cats are all like considerable musicians, but Michael Bland on drums, what an absolute monster. And of course, Prince is playing whatever he wants and singing everything. And that's the way it is on Prince albums. But this record turned my head. And I think it's for two reasons. I think the first thing is that band. That band caught my ear. And I said, wait a second. What? Are you kidding me? The musicianship, again, the Revolution was great. But the musicianship was just so obvious and so on a different level, just clearly on a different level from anything that I had previously heard with Prince. And so on one hand, you have this just an absolute crack band of musicians that Prince had put together there. But then it was the songs too. And like I said before, I don't like all of it, okay? There's stuff on here I don't even bother with. But the good stuff and the stuff that grabbed me. So I remember when Get Off came out, I thought that was a little crazy. That was that first single, the lead single there. And I remember hearing that when that first came out, and I thought, man, that's a little crazy, isn't it? But then he came back with Cream. What an all-time Prince classic, just some great rock and roll. 1991, Cream, what a record that was. The title track, Diamonds and Pearls, just a monster track. Again, not only in the Prince catalog, but in music in general. Strollin', what a great little jazzy tune Strollin' was. Again, Michael Bland on drums showing off on that one. Willing and Able, my God, Willing and Able is just such an incredible rave up. And then the album ends down there at the bottom with Insatiable and Live for Love, a couple of great songs at the end. And of course, as much as I love all those songs that I just mentioned, and to me, there was something about hearing this record the first few times and hearing all of those songs that I just mentioned. Of course, I heard the other ones that I didn't mention, that I didn't care for. But hearing that many songs that I liked that much, that all had different twists to them. And then, like I said, the musicianship, that off-the-chart musicianship of this band. And this was the record that grabbed me. And then it was the next one, that Love Symbol album. Forget it. That album is just ridiculous. And those years there, this album, the Love Symbol album, up to the Gold Experience, Emancipation, that's when my love, and not only musically but just the whole thing, the whole vibe. It was like I got, okay, I get what Prince is talking about. I see what he's doing. There was a different level of understanding there that I felt like I did not have with some of his earlier stuff. So really a powerful time, and man, that New Power Generation band, what a ridiculous lineup. Prince, of course, doing whatever he wants. But this song, Money Don't Matter Tonight, when I remember hearing this album and hearing this song for the first time and just going, okay, here we go. I mean, this is such a... I know Prince has always shown such a great mastery of the full range of R&B and soul style, so there was never any question about that. But this sort of had that smooth Philly soul vibe, and it's just the way he pulls it off. And of course, the lyrics. There's some lyrics in this song, folks, that just, oh my goodness, you better think it over, right? So from 1991, let's get to the song, because this song is just too much, and it knocked me out from the very beginning. As time has gone on now, all these years later, 31 years later, it means even more to me now. I connect even more to it now than I did back then. So it is Prince and the New Power Generation from the Diamonds and Pearls album, and Money Don't Matter Tonight. Going to pause it for a second. Quick observation here. I'll just say it straight out, folks. As much as everyone loves Prince and respects Prince and has given Prince all the accolades, he is still somehow underrated as a singer. I'm sorry. This brother is one of the greatest R&B vocalists in the history of music. And I don't mean stars or guitar players or musicians and all this stuff. I just mean just singers. This brother is one of the best soul singers we have ever seen. Yeah, I mean, just hearing that all the way through, I'll just tell you, folks, that is a whole different level of pocket and groove in that band with those musicians. A whole different level. Revolution was great for that material and great for the times and what Prince was doing back then in the 80s. But these new power generation players that I mentioned there at the beginning of the video, heavyweight group right here, folks. Michael Bland and Sonny T holding it down on the bottom end. And Prince's, and then you have Prince, and you add Prince to that. It's ridiculous. A whole different level of the pocket there. And I would say the same thing on any number of the songs. Same thing on Cream. Listening to Cream, that pocket is just absurd. And Willing and Able, Strolling, I mean, come on. That was a whole different level as far as I was concerned, hearing these guys there in 1991. Yep, and when my brother passed, boy, I tell you, I think there was sort of a delayed reaction, a delayed shock there for me. And when I first heard it, I, of course, did not believe it. I thought it was a hoax. And then within the hour, it was confirmed. And I think at that point, when it was immediately confirmed there, that is when I didn't know it at the time. But looking back now, I think that's when I just sort of slipped into a little state of shock. And I immediately put on some Prince music, didn't faze me. And then it was about, I'm trying to remember what day of the week he died. It was a few days later. I want to say it was maybe 3 or 4 days later. The Minnesota Wild had a hockey game there in Minneapolis, and they did a little Prince tribute before the game, a very short little thing up on their scoreboard there. And I just happened to be scrolling through Twitter or something, I don't know where it was, and I came across this video. And when I hit that play button, oh my goodness, I lost my stuff for my brother, for my dearly departed brother. Whoever put together that little brief tributes, first of all, whoever was working for the Minnesota Wild, the hockey team there in Minnesota, whoever put together that little tribute just nailed it. It was absolute perfection. And of course, they had the whole arena bathed in the purple light, and there was the message from Prince up there on the board, and it was just unbelievable. And I lost it, and it all came out for my brother, my dearly departed brother. So, yeah, as I say, a complicated relationship over the years, but man, the stuff that Prince did that I connect to, that connection is so, oh, I don't have to tell you guys, you know, right? You know how that Prince connection is a different vibe. It's a different kind of connection. The dude was just so intense and so ridiculously talented and so mercurial, and still blows me away to this day. My brother Prince, man, I couldn't wait to get to some Prince on the channel, and I knew we had to start with this song, one of my favorites. Prince has got so much. I mentioned Pop Life, another one of my real big Prince tunes. Loved that Emancipation album. That's songs all over that album that I absolutely love. It goes on and on and on. And what a career my man put together there. What an unbelievable musical legacy. And I hope that over time, people will rewind back there to this period, this early 90s period with this version of the NPG. And there is some pretty amazing stuff to be found there. Prince and the New Power Generation, Money Don't Matter Tonight in 1991. Let's see what else we can come up with from the early 90s here. There's got to be some more great stuff waiting right around the corner. Yep, there is. Prince, my brother, hang on. There you go. I know you wanted to see it. There it is. This was the Newsweek commemorative thing. The life and death of a musical genius. No, Sherlock. Man, what a talented individual. See you in the next one, folks. I hope you love my brother Prince as much as I do. Come on, Prince, help me out.